Yeah, anyone. You're also free to ask your questions anonymously by sending it directly to Dr. Jamil on the chat here. Any question? Any clarification? Yeah. Any response? Any reflection? Anyone? Will the presentation be made available to participants? Okay, we'll see about that later here. Somebody was trying to correct the title, saying there is youngsters today have a sense of entitlement, or kids have a sense of entitlement that they should be looked after and they need to, that others owe them something. So, how does that come in? You think again?
Yeah, so again, I can't say that it is a compulsory generational thing that youngsters today have it. I don't think we can make that generalization. Okay, we don't have sufficient evidence to make that kind of generalization that it is compulsory for all children of this generation. If you're talking about either generation Z or generation Alpha, the next generation, that they will have a sense of entitlement. I don't think it is compulsory. So if children do have that, we need to ensure that they are exposed to enough uh, evidence that, see, you can live your life in sort of blissful ignorance that there is any difficulty or that anybody else has a different kind of lifestyle to yours and you are entitled to all fun and frolic and money and whatever you want. But if you expose them to others, no, if you expose them to the darker side of life, that people have problems, that there are poor in the world, that there are people who don't have food to eat, we expose them to all that, and we empathetically share with them that, look, this is how we help them. If we role model that we care about the poor and the ill and the elderly and the others, then they will not, we hope that they will then not have a sense of entitlement and they will learn that they should share and whatever. All right. So
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anyone else? Any other question?
Yeah, I just have one, it's more than a question, it's an irony because, I find it so strange. The only my problem with the young generation, Gen Z or Gen Y is that, especially Gen Z is that, they many times, I don't know what makes them to think that, they can change the world, they can change the climate, they can change the society before they can, earn earn 1 month's salary and take care of their parents. that is the most funny thing, that I feel about them. And
yeah,
it is a strange thing that they tried to change Bangladesh and they messed it up so royally, the college students. So that is a very dangerous thing. These Gen Zs are a danger to the world. If they are kept out of control.
okay, that's an interesting observation. That's what I also shared earlier, right? That the younger people, they tend to be interested in global and international issues, but that is also because we have provided them the phones which they are looking at, right? So the phones are provided by us. So if we do not expose them to local issues and they are seeing only global and international issues, obviously their focus will be on that, no? So if we want them to have interest in local issues and local poverty issues or whatever, climate change issues, you will have to start by experience. They have to experience that, look, our parents are also interested in composting. Our parents are interested in recycling. Our parents are interested in using less plastic. If we role model that, look, we are doing what we can here, then they will have that local emphasis as well as the global emphasis. So again, I think it comes down to, if we wanted them to change, parents have to role model. That would probably be the challenge for all of us.
True, very true. Yeah, I agree. No, but this is
yes, it is an irony. I agree that it's an irony. Yeah. But again, we can correct that by How can we train Generation Y in reaching out to family member in need when one parent gives silent treatment? I am not sure exactly what that is, but I think that sometimes, yes, parents are not agreed on that. That is a problem. You parents need to sort it out between yourself. Okay. So figure out how to sort out between yourself this difference that you have, and role model that you are reaching out to family members in need, and give them the opportunity to help, ask for help, ask them to come and help. Okay. So when you do that, you can only hope that they will join in. What are the personal traits of selfishness and we can empower to overcome? Well, I gave some examples, right, of selfishness that, see, even blocking the left lane, if there's a free left and we block it all the time, if we drive selfishly, no, our children will see it and they will follow suit. If we drive honking very madly, the children will see it and they will follow suit. If we role model in our house that we do not share chores, or we leave the more difficult chores always to one person, or we we want to be served all the time. We do not want to take the effort to serve others in the family. These are all so there's selfishness in the house, there's selfishness at work, there's selfishness everywhere. So we need to check when we are sort of putting our needs first before other people, and find ways to overcome that. Ma'am, why do we feel it's difficult to communicate to our younger generation kids? Anything we want to convey is always taken as boring or toxic mostly. Okay, well, perhaps we need to think how we are talking, and perhaps we should just try to be friends with them instead first. Find out, I think a good way to communicate with children is to learn their music, take interest in what music they are listening to, take interest in what films they are watching, take interest in what books they are reading, take interest in their friends, and just ask about it rather than giving advice or giving opinions. Just ask questions. What do you find interesting? Tell me about this. Or say, I like this. Do you like this? I really like this about your serial. And just talk about those things, their interests, then they will not find it toxic and boring, no? Because it's their interests. They're interested in it. Maybe that would be the solution. Somebody has made a comment that there's no biblical basis. Well, I think that this was meant to be a session for all, not just Christians, which is why there's not too much of biblical basis here. Frequent watching particular type of movies or social media posts make a big change in their lives too, in accordance with. I didn't get that whole question, Abhijit. Can you get it for me?
No, is it on your private chat or it's on the direct?
No, it's on the general.
Okay, it's ma'am,
I think most parents are not learners themselves. They can't communicate in the language of the kids. That's right. Yeah, I agree that we first have to learn to communicate in their language, only then.
Yeah. Dr. Jamila, do you think there is a certain model of parenting where these days where it's always giving to the kids and pouring themselves without asking the kid to take responsibility or being sensitive to the parents' emotions and need, which leads to a further distancing
that is possible. So it's possible for us to just become martyrs and just do the work and then complain that I am doing so much for you and the children are not giving anything back. It's possible to become like that. But if we are very deliberate parents, no, we pray and we think and we plan, then we must think that I want to teach my children this. So how do I teach them? I want to expose them to the needs of people, particularly the needs of the Indian people, our Indian families, our Indian churches, whatever. I want them to see the local needs. So expose them to local needs and then talk and share about that, demonstrate getting involved in that, and then give them the opportunity. Ask them to get involved, ask for help in dealing with, chores in the house or taking care of grandparents or whatever it is. Ask them to help. When you ask them to help, when they understand that that is part of their job, a part of the family, that we all together do this, then that is the way to do it, rather than parent doing it and slavishly sort of serving everybody and then feeling like a martyr at the end of it. That doesn't help, no?
Yeah. But how can parents make their kids more sensitive towards their own emotional needs? Because how can they do that? Because sometimes kids don't respect their parents, or they are not even sensitive that I should share this with I'm eating this cake, I should share it with my mom or my dad. Or parents feel
Yeah.
guilty to ask anything. They feel I should just be giving. So how can they train their children to be more respectful and sensitive towards their own need, which is required because then there is a further drifting away in their old age and when they grow up.
Right. See, I don't think you have to start by pointing out your own thing. When you teach the children to understand others' emotions, when you're teaching them about the poor, for instance, if you expose them to the needs of the elderly, and you tell them that, look, grandpa is tired, grandpa is feeling exhausted, you need to help him. Or if you say that your grandmother is very, upset today. So you're talking about emotions. So the children are learning to identify emotions in each other. Or you say that your sister is tired today. Can you just help her by taking her bag, carrying her bag for her? So you're teaching her to identify emotions in other people. When the child learns to identify emotions in others, then they will identify it in you automatically. So
Yeah.
you don't have to specifically teach them to identify emotions in you. Teach them to identify emotions in other people. That, look,
Right.
so and so is tired, or so and so is exhausted. Our servant is very tired today. We need to help her. Why don't you make her a cup of tea? So if you teach them to identify with other people's emotions, they will learn to identify yours as well,
Right.
isn't it?
That's
And then
what.
maybe one parent can point out sometimes that, look, mom is very tired today. Why don't we cook? So the father can tell the children that our mother is very tired today. Why don't we both cook? Let's cook dinner and let her take rest. If you say that, the child learns, no, that sometimes mother's tired, we should help and cook. Or the mother may say that, look, dad is very tired today. Why don't you go and press his legs for him? So if you say that, you are teaching the child to understand that, okay, dad is tired today. So each parent could point out about the other parent's emotional need or physical need. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Rather than pointing out about myself. Pointing out about myself is more difficult.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So
Yeah. Sister
I've
Anne.
observed that parents who take care of themselves and more be martyrs, but do not yell and shout, do a better job than martyr parents who end up yelling and crying and losing their temper. Yes, I agree. Dear ma'am, I find it difficult to put up with a cussing word which is used like a common word. I live in a small town. My 12-year-old son picks up these words from his friends because we are not from the state and don't use the local abuse. Can you help me with this, please? Okay. See, there is a phase in life when children want to use, bad words. All right. So I think you need to just sit down with the child and tell him that there are certain words which are good, certain words which are bad, which is acceptable in certain settings, certain words which are not acceptable in certain settings. So, find out the words, make a little effort and tell the child that please don't use these words in family groups or whatever. If you sometimes use it in your own life or with your friends or something, I don't want you to do it, but certainly you cannot do it in the family group or whatever. Okay, so you can just talk about it like that. But don't get triggered by it. There's also a phase in which children want to do this. Okay, it's sort of very glamorous, very grown up to do. So sometimes you might have to also ignore it and just pass it on. But you yourself role model speaking well, okay, without being very rigid or panicky if he uses bad words occasionally. Okay, so some Douglas Barnett has shared about help identify their. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any other question? Any other comment? Anybody wants? I think there are still comments coming.
Kids are not sensitive to church, prayer, or religious these days. How do we help them? Uh, okay. well, maybe we can show that faith is real in our life. Okay. Once again, just focus on showing that your faith is important to you and it's real, and pray for real things, pray for the children's needs, pray for actual real needs, uh, practical things. Don't pray in general for global warming and all, which is too in the air. Pray for specific needs, like we pray that grandpa will have his fever will go down, or pray for something specific all the time, so that the children learn to pray specific prayers. And as God answers their prayers, it will help them. Okay, so that way you can do it. Again, role modeling and living it out consistently is the most important thing.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. So I think, yeah.
After the baby boomer generation, sibling bonding has decreased, leading to more conflicts and issues among siblings. How to deal with this in the current generation? Yeah, it is true that it's possible that each person is on their phone and they're not bonding as much as before. If we allow that to happen, so probably we need to just check that they are spending time together, encourage some kind of activities which they can do together. Most children still like to spend time with their siblings, okay, particularly with watching something or playing something. So maybe you can have family game time, get some board games and play together in the evenings. All that helps in bonding, no? Okay. Family games are I think family games are really important. They teach children to play, to share, to laugh, to lose. All those things are important, no? Okay.
Uh, Dr. Jabila, would you comment on the difference in which a girl child is raised as opposed to a boy? Because boys being selfish is considered natural, whereas girls, that kind of bias. Because then, girls are sensitive, but boys are not. So, any such, any comment on that?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
brother Abhijit. I want to interfere here because nowadays girls are not so and boys are a bit. The case is reverse in nowadays. I feel. Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Please,
cases,
ma'am.
yes. In some cases, yes. But in some cases also, girls are expected to help with the cooking and cutting and that sort of thing. And that also can happen. So it depends on each family. Again, we can't generalize probably. I think it would help if both boys and girls are taught to help at home. Okay. So they should have some chores which they are asked to do. And share in, the maybe washing up or laying the table or helping with the cooking or helping with the shopping. So preferably don't make gender specific roles. Let there be a lot of overlap, because ultimately nowadays boys have to live alone, girls have to live alone. When they get work, most educated children, when they go up, they all have to fend for themselves. So it's good for both boys and girls to learn how to pay bills, to cook, to shop, to drive a car, drive a scooter, whatever it is. It's good to teach boys and girls both everything. So try not to be gender specific in the chores that you teach your children, and don't differentiate too much in all that. And be careful that you don't give either boys or girls a free pass. Sometimes girls also get a pass when they say that, oh, she's going to go off to another family, so here she can. I've heard people saying that also. Okay, so neither of those things needs to happen, right?
Okay. Yeah. Any other question? Any other comment? Yeah, go ahead. So, Dr. Jabila, this thought process started after we had a senior citizens meeting some time back, and one of the speakers, we were dealing with the topic of abuse of elderly people. And then I think one of the speaker was very bold in saying that your kids are good with you only because the property is not in their name, in their name, and the moment you hand over the property, you'll know. So don't do that. And I think there is we keep saying that every generation has its selfishness, but to see how increasingly distanced young adults or adults are with their parents is something probably that starts very early in the childhood. Do you think uh, in some form of defective way of raising their kids, or where they are just numbing their kids by always giving and not yeah, I mean, I'm going back to the earlier thing that I asked.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason is. Why parents would feel this way and why kids become this way. It's not very clear. I think in each case we'd have to be to figuring out if the reasons are different. But I would still feel that that you did not teach the children to empathize with everybody's emotional needs, to understand the difficulties and darker side of life which everybody goes through, and to understand your own responsibility in these things. That look, I need to participate in helping. So, I mean, it's also very cynical and very, I think it's again a generalization to say, that if you give the property over to your kids, then they will, your kids are good to you only because they don't have the property and all. I'm not sure that is a right thing to say.
Yeah.
I mean, these kind of things can be very self-fulfilling prophecies also, no? If you are so cynical about the children, they will be cynical about you, right? Would that happen? You're giving, it's a very negative point. So if a child lives with negativity, they will be negative, no?
That's true.
Yeah.
So should we be saying that sort of thing? I'm not sure we should. I'm not sure it's helpful. I'm not sure it's a very Christ-like thing to say or do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, this
Yes,
was
human beings are sinful. We know that. We know that human beings are sinful. We know that that tendency is there in everybody.
yeah, that was
But
a
we
general,
also know that,
yeah,
yeah,
that was a meeting just like this, a general meeting, and we had a speaker from a
yeah,
NGO.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I understand. I understand. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how. Yeah,
So perhaps that's the thing. So maybe we should
yeah.
be a little more positive about it and demonstrate. But I think what you said is right, that if you always just keep giving, and you don't teach the children to understand that they also have to give,
Give back. Yeah,
not by talking about your needs, but by teaching them to give to others. We teach them to give to others, to recognize others' needs. In the process, they will also learn to understand your needs. I think that's the best way to do it. Because
right,
if I keep talking about my needs, then I might end up being very selfish, no?
right, right. That's
Do
true.
you
Yeah,
feel that the disconnect of care, right? Isn't it true? It's possible for us to focus so much on ourselves then that we are in turn becoming selfish. Do you feel
correct.
that the disconnect of parents due to comparatively less time and disposal to engage with children nowadays also plays a role in further alienation? Yes, Amit, I think that is true, that sometimes a time issue is there, but we can get over this again by using whatever time we have wisely. So whatever time we have, we should spend with the children. So that's why I think that uh, eh, phones are good, but it's also nice to use the TV sometimes so that everybody can watch a movie. So at least you can, I think now they have all these fancy stuff where you can cast it on the TV, right? So even if you find a serial that you like or something that you want to watch, children want to watch, you just say that let's all watch it together, and you put it on the TV screen and you all can watch it together. So at least that way you can save whatever time you have, you can spend intentionally with the children, with your spouse. So I think there has to be a very intentional spending of time now. Because yes, travel is much more difficult than it used to be. Travel is much longer, working hours are longer. So yes, all those things are there.
Yeah, but
Can I add one?
yeah, can I ask a question?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, brother Stephen, and then Nancy. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So my question is, why? I mean, like in one family, the some childrens become vulnerable. So I mean, like vulnerable. So why is that? I mean,
Vulnerable
like
to what?
if they are like stubborn kind of thing. I mean, like
Okay. I think there are personality differences in children. Some children, I mean, that's just something that we know that happens. You might have 5 children, and each of them will have different personalities. One will be shy, one will be outgoing, one will be quiet, one will be stubborn, one will be very strong-willed. So there is a lot of individual variation. Okay. So we need to understand our children as they are and work with them as they are. So we need to find what each child needs to learn. So one child may need to learn to be less anxious. One child may need to learn to share. One child may have a problem with their anger. So they have to learn to control their anger. Okay, so individual variation.
no, I mean, like it's see one family like they how they get the different. I mean, the different variations things there. How they get that? That's what
I
my
think
question
there
is
is,
like.
yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it is genetic also, okay, and part of it is social. So, for instance, it is known that elder children, the firstborn children, tend to be more responsible. They tend to have a little more time with parents, so they tend to connect with parents a little better. Okay, that usually happens, right? Now, the last born child, the second born child, sometimes often may feel a little neglected. That may cause them to either withdraw or become a little rebellious or become independent. So that social setting, no, because the elder child has had more time with the parents, youngest child usually gets more time with the parents. The middle child sometimes has a little difficult time, isn't it? Sometimes if you have uh, 5 girls and then 1 boy, you may find that the fifth girl may feel very isolated and neglected because all the attention is on the sixth boy. Okay, it may work the other way. If you have 5 boys and then 1 girl, the fifth boy may feel that way. Okay, so there are different social reasons for it. Sometimes there's also other things like illness. So some illness may cause the child to be a little cranky, a little irritable. Sometimes they may have skin problems or so there are different issues, genetic as well as social, which cause this individual variation in
Sure.
temperament. Okay.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Jamil.
Yeah, okay, Nancy, please go ahead.
I think another point is building up resilience. Now, the
Resilience?
tendency of today's younger generation, they are not very resilient. They can't take hardship and pain as compared to the older generations. And I think, growing up, the older generations faced, like our parents said, no, I'm a baby boomer. But today's generation, parents tend to give in to them. Anything they want is immediately, also because the families are smaller, I guess. And I feel that we do not build up their adversity quotient when we very easily given, when they get just about everything that they want. So growing up,
That's
there
true.
has to be a certain, they have to distinguish between what is really needed and what is a want and what is a need. And I think parents need to differentiate that, not just given, because that does not build up resilience.
Yes, I agree with you completely. It's very important for parents to be able to understand what is needed and what is just desired. And they need to be able to make a call, and they need to not give in to every demand that that the children have. But this is something which has been there always. Okay. It's just that earlier there were more children in a family, right? So it was not even possible to give every child that kind of individual attention or anything. But the same desire for things and all was there in the children even earlier. But then because they didn't get it, they learned to do without it. Now, yes, because parents tend to give in, and sometimes because they are working, they want to give things and make up for their absence, which they should not do, right? So, yes, that amount of wisdom has to be there in the parents. I agree with you. But it's not compulsory that everyone is doing this. Huh? Some people do it. Okay. Some people are able to draw the line. Yes, Sujana has a comment.
Yes, Sujana, please go.
Yeah, thank you. No, I have a question. So, yeah, actually, I'm very much confused many times to draw a line between self-esteem, pride, and being humble. In teaching those things to my children, the previous question, it was like this, right? Some children will get more attention in the family where the others don't, and even in the schools and society also. At that time, how should we really teach our children that self-esteem, or what should we teach? Actually, that's my question.
Okay. I think we should teach our children that self-esteem, which is based on recognition or achievement or whatever, does not last. We need to tell them that. We need to tell them that, look, sometimes you will achieve, sometimes you won't achieve. Sometimes you'll get good marks, sometimes you won't get good marks. So your worth and your self-esteem does not depend on your marks or lack of marks or anything. Your worth and your self-esteem come from God, right? Your worth comes because you are a child of God and you are, Jesus has shed his blood for you or whatever. As Christians, this is what we believe, that our worth comes from God. Our worth does not come from our achievements. Because if our worth comes from our intelligence or our achievements, that means only the intelligent and the smart and the one who comes first in class have any value, no? So we need to make it clear that that is not true, that we value all our children the same, include the one who gets 90% and the one who gets 70% have same value in our eyes. We have to demonstrate this. Okay?
Yeah, I got it. But sometimes I feel kids will get bored of listening things, these things like always getting God into our discussion. Sometimes they feel you always say this, Mama. You always say Jesus tells this, and we as God's children should be like this. But that I feel they were not satisfied or encouraged with the such type of teaching. Sometimes I notice it. Of course, we keep encouraging them towards godly things, but still, sometimes they feel every time we should look onto God. Is there not any other way to you got it, I feel. Like, am I clear, ma'am?
I'm not very sure because we need to tell our children that, yeah, that is true. We can't leave God out of it because God is the center of our lives and He is the reason for our worldview on everything. Okay? But then perhaps what you mean is that they may get bored if we go on talking about it. So maybe you can just say it in one sentence.
Yeah. No, not like that. For everything, if we bring God into the discussion. Why? Because the ultimately, how could we answer the questions is we
Like,
finally
what are the
lead
questions? What are the questions they're asking which you brought God into? If you bring self-esteem, you have to talk about God. What are the other questions that they asked which you brought God into it?
you take the competitiveness in the class, like the people who are more proactive, they run forward and answer the questions or grab some things. We teach kids to be kind, polite, and share, right? So in such perspectives, how should I really teach them? And that's my concern, actually.
Yeah, well, I think we have to tell them that look, when it comes to questions of behavior and questions of moral issues, I will be bringing God into it. Because if you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to be answering you based on my worldview, and our worldview is based on Jesus. This you can ask them directly. Do you find Jesus boring? You're saying that you're getting bored, no? Do you find Jesus boring? So then you ask the question that, okay, rather than answering the question, you just tell them, ask them, what would Jesus do in this situation? That's the only answer I can give you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
rather
got it.
than
Okay.
giving
So,
the answer, just ask them turn.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank
But then
you.
we have to make it clear that when it comes to worldview and Jesus is the center. We don't have any other answer for that. Okay.
Okay.
And
For
everything else is.
yeah.
Yeah, true,
I
true.
think
Yeah.
without Jesus we cannot do anything. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
for friends of other faith, we are having some Christian programs also. That's why there are people talking from the Christian perspective here. There be
Yes.
something in that.
Yes.
So yeah,
Sorry to bring that
yeah,
in. Yeah.
yeah. So please excuse us. Yeah. Okay, I think we've come to the close of the meeting. But if there's anybody who still wants to, and if you want to connect with us, friends, that's connection. If you're here for the first time, we'd really like to get to know each of you, and we'd like to learn about more issues you think are important to be discussed, and we can come back and do that. Yeah. So, Dr. Jamila, one last question would be, if there is a damage that has happened in the upbringing already, for whatever reason, and then there is a distance, growing distance, that a father sees with his young daughter or a mother sees with a young son, and they see it as selfishness, but probably there is some hurt that has happened on the other side where the child is experiencing, because there are parents sometimes who can say things very carelessly or in their anger, which can go and get hurt, and then the young son or the young daughter starts distancing themselves. How can that relationship, which outwardly appears like, oh, my son or daughter is becoming selfish, they are becoming insensitive to me, how can that be healed?
Yeah. I suppose the way any other relationship has to be healed, by talking about it, asking that, did I hurt you? Did I say something which hurt you? Please tell me. And if I did, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Parents should be able to swallow their pride and say that to children. And children need to be able to say that to parents. So there's no other way, no? You have to talk, communicate, ask forgiveness, and hope for the best that this relationship will be restored. Say that you will correct what mistake you made, that sort of thing. Say that I'll change. I really want to work on our relationship. Well, say that. I think very few people would be able to say, no, I will not. No? Abhijit?
So I think with that, we can close the meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Jamila. If please get in touch with us, and also if you'd like to connect with Dr. Jamila, we could do that if you have further things to discuss. Yeah. Thank you all for attending, and thank you once again, Dr. Jamila. Bye, everyone. See you.
Good night.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.